Princess Vila paced back and forth in the royal palace's grand chamber. Her long, silver-blue robe swayed with each step, and her violet eyes sparkled with both curiosity and determination. The soft hum of the palace's energy system filled the air, and outside the vast windows, the Zephyrian sky stretched out, dark and endless. Vila had seen it all before, but today something felt different. Today she had made a decision that could change everything. Her mother, Empress Liara, sat at the far end of the room, her posture as regal as ever. The Empress's hair shimmered like strands of polished obsidian, and her expression was one of calm authority, but there was a hint of concern in her eyes. She knew something was coming. She always did. "Mother," Vila said, her voice steady but filled with a sense of urgency. "I need to speak to you about something important, something I believe could change our future." The Empress raised an eyebrow, her hands resting on the arms of her throne. She had raised Vila to be strong, independent, and wise, but this was the first time her daughter had come to her with such conviction. "I am listening, my child," Empress Liara replied, her voice smooth and measured, as if she already knew what was about to come. Vila took a deep breath and approached the Empress. She stood before her, her heart racing. She had been thinking about this for weeks, ever since she first discovered the transmissions from Earth, an unknown planet filled with strange creatures. But one human in particular had caught her attention, Ethan. "I want to bring a human to Zephyria," Vila said, her words bold and full of passion. The Empress did not respond immediately. She studied her daughter carefully, her sharp mind working through the implications of such a request. The Zephyrians were an ancient and highly advanced species, and their empire was known across the galaxy for its strength, wisdom, and power. But humanity was different. The humans were still primitive by their standards. A species that had barely begun to explore space, their technology was no match for the Zephyrians. And yet, something about Ethan intrigued Vila. "You know how dangerous this could be," the Empress said, her voice soft but firm. "Bringing a human to Zephyria would stir unrest. Our enemies would see this as an opportunity to weaken us. And you must understand, Vila, that humanity has yet to prove its value." "I know," Vila replied, her voice filled with determination. "But that's exactly why I want to bring him here. Ethan is not just any human. He's a scientist, someone whose work could help us understand things we've never been able to grasp. His mind is extraordinary. I believe he has the potential to help us make discoveries that could benefit both our species." The Empress's eyes narrowed. She had heard of humans before, but Vila's description of Ethan was new to her. Humans were unpredictable. They were capable of great intelligence, but also of great destruction. Their emotions often led them to make rash decisions. It was risky to involve them in Zephyrian affairs. "You've studied him for a while, haven't you?" the Empress asked, her voice tinged with a hint of amusement. "Tell me, Vila, what is it about this human that has captured your attention so?" Vila hesitated for a moment, her mind drifting to the countless transmissions she had watched. She remembered Ethan's voice, calm and confident as he explained complex theories, his eyes bright with excitement as he uncovered new scientific truths. There was a spark in him, a passion for discovery that reminded her of herself when she was younger. "It's not just his intelligence," Vila said, her voice softer now. "It's his compassion. He cares deeply for his people. He is not just a scientist. He's someone who would use his knowledge to help others, to make the world a better place. I believe we can learn from him." The Empress leaned back in her throne, her gaze softening. She had always admired her daughter's idealism, but she also knew the harsh realities of their world. The Zephyrians had survived for thousands of years because they understood the importance of strategy, control, and power. Trusting a human, especially one who had no understanding of their ways, was a risk that could threaten everything they had built. "You are asking a great deal, Vila," the Empress said after a long pause. "But I see that you are determined. Tell me then, how do you intend to prove this human's worth to our people?" Vila's heart skipped a beat. This was the moment she had been waiting for. "I will go to Earth. I will meet him myself. I will bring him here and show you, Mother, that humanity has much to offer us. But I need your permission to do so." The Empress studied her daughter's face, her sharp gaze penetrating. She had raised Vila to be a leader, someone who could make difficult decisions. But this was different. The idea of a human, someone so foreign to their world, living among them was a concept that filled her with both curiosity and caution. "You are asking me to take a great risk, Vila," the Empress said, her voice solemn. "But I know that once you set your mind on something, nothing can change it. I will give you permission to go, but you must prove this human's worth. If he fails to meet your expectations, you must return immediately, and this conversation will be forgotten." Vila nodded eagerly. She had known her mother would be cautious, but she also knew that Empress Liara valued courage and innovation. This was her chance to prove herself, and to show her mother that humanity could be more than just a primitive species. "I will prove him worthy, mother." "I promise you." The Empress looked at her daughter one last time, her expression unreadable. "Then go, but remember, Vila, this decision could have consequences far beyond your understanding. Be careful." With those words, the Empress dismissed her, and Vila left the chamber, her heart filled with excitement. She was about to embark on a journey that would change the fate of both Zephyria and humanity. And no matter what, she was determined to see it through. Princess Vila stood in front of the gleaming starship, the cold, polished surface reflecting the vastness of space. The ship's engines hummed softly, ready for takeoff. Her mission was clear, but the weight of it made her chest feel tight. She was about to leave Zephyria, the only world she had ever known, to travel to Earth and bring back the human named Ethan. The ship's sleek design was an achievement of Zephyrian technology, built for long-distance space travel. As Vila prepared for her departure, she couldn't help but think about the strange new world she was about to visit. Earth was far from the advanced civilization of Zephyria, but she had seen enough of it to know that there was more to humanity than met the eye. They had something her people lacked: raw, untapped potential. Before she boarded, Vila took one last look at the Zephyrian palace. The towering spires of the city stretched high into the atmosphere, and the bright blue skies of her home planet seemed to promise both security and stagnation. She had grown up here, but she knew that the future lay beyond the familiar walls of her childhood home. She had to see it for herself, humanity's promise. With a deep breath, Vila stepped into the ship. The door sealed behind her, and the interior was filled with the soft, reassuring hum of the engines. She moved to the cockpit where her pilot, Commander Thera, awaited. Thera was a seasoned officer, wise and capable, and had accompanied the princess on many journeys before. She was also a trusted ally who understood the weight of Vila's mission. "Everything is prepared, Your Highness," Thera said, turning in her seat to give Vila a respectful nod. Vila nodded in return, her mind focused on the task ahead. "Let's begin the journey," she said quietly. The ship's thrusters ignited, and with a smooth motion, they lifted off from the Zephyrian surface. As the palace and city became smaller in the distance, Vila felt a sense of both excitement and trepidation. She had no idea what awaited her on Earth, but she knew that her request to bring a human to Zephyria would forever change both her life and the lives of her people. The journey to Earth took several days, during which Vila spent her time studying the human world. The information she had gathered from the transmissions was fascinating. Earth was filled with beauty and danger in equal measure. The planet's ecosystems were rich and diverse, and humanity's creativity seemed limitless. But there were also wars, inequality, and suffering. Vila wondered how such a promising species could also be so destructive. As the ship entered Earth's atmosphere, Vila felt a slight jolt, followed by the soft hum of the landing gear extending. The planet was much more beautiful than she had imagined, with oceans stretching across the surface and vast green lands dotted with cities. The ship gently touched down in a remote area far from any major settlements, hidden from the eyes of the world. Vila knew that their arrival had to remain a secret. The last thing she wanted was to cause unnecessary panic or stir political tensions. "Ready for disembarkation, Princess," Thera said as the ship's doors opened. Vila stepped out into the cool air, the scent of Earth's atmosphere unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was both familiar and strange at once, fresh, yet tinged with the scent of the unknown. The landscape around her was green and untouched, a stark contrast to the technology-filled world of Zephyria. She breathed deeply, her excitement growing. After a few moments, Vila and Thera began their journey toward the small research facility where Ethan worked. According to the information they had gathered, Ethan's team was studying environmental systems and trying to develop sustainable energy sources. It was this work that had caught Vila's attention, the potential to solve problems that even Zephyrians hadn't fully addressed. As they approached the facility, Vila was struck by the simplicity of the structure. Earth had so much to offer, but its civilization still relied on basic infrastructure, brick and mortar buildings, communication systems that seemed outdated compared to Zephyrian tech. Yet there was a certain charm to it, a rawness that felt genuine. Vila's heart raced as she thought of Ethan, the human she had studied from afar. She had seen his face in the transmissions, a man in his early 30s with brown hair, intelligent eyes, and a focused demeanor. He was not someone who sought fame or recognition. Instead, he was driven by a quiet passion for his work and the belief that humanity could improve its world. When they reached the research facility, Vila felt a wave of nervousness wash over her. She had prepared for this moment, but now that it was here, she couldn't help but wonder how Ethan would react. Would he be afraid of her? Would he trust her? Or would he be skeptical of her intentions? As they entered the building, Vila was surprised by how unassuming the facility was. The corridors were filled with basic equipment, papers, and notes scattered around. A few researchers sat at desks, typing away at computers, their focus on their work. Ethan was nowhere in sight, but Vila was certain he was here. Her instincts told her that this was where she would find him. They walked through the facility, and soon they reached a large laboratory where Ethan was conducting an experiment. He was focused on his work, scribbling notes in a journal as he adjusted the settings on a complex piece of equipment. His concentration was intense, and for a moment, Vila simply watched him, fascinated by the way he moved and thought. It was then that Ethan turned, noticing her for the first time. His eyes widened in surprise, and he froze for a moment, unsure of what he was seeing. Vila stepped forward, her presence calm and non-threatening. She knew that she needed to approach him carefully. "Hello, Ethan," she said, her voice warm but confident. Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked at her with a mix of confusion and disbelief. What are you?" he finally stammered, his voice shaky. "I am Princess Vila of Zephyria," she replied, keeping her tone gentle. "I've come to bring you back to our world." Ethan blinked, still trying to process what he was hearing. "Zephyria, is this some kind of joke? You're not human," Vila smiled softly. "No, I am not human. But I need your help, Ethan. My people, our people, have much to learn from you." Ethan took a step back, his mind racing. This couldn't be real. He had heard stories of alien life, of strange beings from other worlds, but he never imagined he would meet one. He stared at Vila, his scientific curiosity piquing despite the confusion and fear that clouded his thoughts. What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice steadier now, though still filled with wonder. "I need you to come with me," Vila said. "We have a great deal to offer each other. There are things on Zephyria that could help you with your research, things that you have never dreamed of. But we also need your knowledge, your perspective. I believe that together we can build a future that benefits both our worlds." Ethan stood there, staring at her. He had dedicated his life to studying the Earth's environment, to understanding the planet's systems. But this, an alien princess asking for his help, it felt like something out of a dream or a nightmare. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. He could feel the weight of the decision before him. Could he trust her? Could he trust an alien race with his knowledge? Was this the opportunity he had been waiting for, or was it a trap? "I'll need time to think," Ethan said, his voice finally calm. "This is a lot to process." Vila nodded, understanding. She knew this wasn't easy. "I will give you as much time as you need, but please consider it carefully. The future of both our worlds may depend on this." Ethan hesitated, but something in Vila's eyes made him feel like this was not a decision he could ignore. He had always wanted to make a difference, to push the boundaries of science, to help humanity achieve greatness. But now, standing in front of an alien princess, he wondered if his purpose had just changed. He met her gaze, and for the first time in his life, he felt the weight of the unknown pressing against him. The days that followed Ethan's meeting with Princess Vila were filled with confusion, wonder, and a growing sense of disbelief. He had agreed to travel with her to Zephyria, but the decision weighed heavily on him. Could he truly leave Earth behind? Could he trust a princess from a distant world, one that had advanced technology far beyond anything humanity had ever known? There were so many unknowns. Ethan spent his last few days on Earth in a whirlwind of preparation. He packed only the essentials, knowing that whatever awaited him on Zephyria would be unlike anything he could ever imagine. There were so many questions he needed answers to, but he also felt a strange pull toward the unknown. He had always been fascinated by the mysteries of space, and now one of those mysteries was standing before him, asking for his help. When the day came to leave, Ethan felt a mixture of fear and excitement. He stood in front of the research facility, staring up at the sleek, futuristic ship that would take him away from everything he had ever known. The ship gleamed under the bright sun, its surface reflecting the sky and the distant stars. It was both beautiful and intimidating, and Ethan couldn't help but feel small in its presence. Vila appeared beside him, her silver-blue robes flowing as she moved gracefully toward the ship. She looked serene, as though this journey were nothing more than another day in her life. Ethan, on the other hand, felt like his entire world was about to change forever. He had spent so long studying Earth and its ecosystems, but now he was about to leave it all behind. He was about to step into a new world, one that might hold answers to questions he hadn't even known to ask. "Are you ready?" Vila asked, her voice calm and reassuring. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. "I think so, but I'm not sure I can ever be ready for something like this." Vila smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. "There is no such thing as being truly ready. Sometimes we just have to take the leap." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. He had always been a man of reason, relying on logic and evidence to guide his decisions, but nothing about this made sense. Yet, at the same time, he couldn't deny the pull he felt toward Vila and her world. There was something in her presence, something in the way she spoke of Zephyria and humanity's potential, that made him want to believe. He had spent years working to solve problems here on Earth, but perhaps the solutions he sought lay beyond the stars. Together, they boarded the ship, and the doors sealed behind them. The interior was sleek and minimalistic, with soft, glowing lights and smooth surfaces. Vila led Ethan to the main deck, where Commander Thera was already at the controls. The hum of the ship's engines filled the air, and Ethan could feel the energy vibrating through the floor beneath him. His heart pounded in his chest as he took his seat beside Vila. "This is it," Ethan whispered to himself, feeling a mix of awe and anxiety. He was about to leave Earth and venture into the unknown. There was no turning back now. The ship lifted off gently, rising through the atmosphere and into the vast expanse of space. Through the windows, Ethan watched as Earth shrank below them, the blue and green planet fading into the distance. He felt a pang of sadness, knowing that he might never return, but at the same time a sense of excitement washed over him. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. Whatever awaited him on Zephyria, he knew it would be unlike anything he could have ever imagined. As the ship soared through the stars, Vila and Ethan sat in silence, each lost in their thoughts. Vila was the first to speak, breaking the quiet. "You're probably wondering what Zephyria is like," she said, her voice soft but filled with a quiet confidence. Ethan turned to her, his eyes wide with curiosity. "I can only imagine, but I'm sure it's nothing like Earth." "You said your people are technologically advanced, but what about everything else? What's life like there?" Vila smiled, a touch of pride in her eyes. "Zephyria is a peaceful world. Our technology has allowed us to solve many of the problems that plague your world: disease, pollution, scarcity. We live in harmony with nature, and our society is based on cooperation and knowledge. There is no war, no hunger, no poverty. We've learned to work together for the greater good of all." Ethan's mind raced as he processed her words. "That sounds amazing," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "But how did you manage to create such a perfect society?" Vila's expression softened, and she looked out the window at the stars. "It wasn't always this way. Zephyria wasn't always peaceful. We, too, had our wars and struggles. But over time, we learned that only through cooperation and understanding could we truly achieve peace. We discovered the power of knowledge, of science, and of working together toward a common goal." Ethan nodded slowly, taking in her words. He had always believed that humanity could overcome its problems through science and collaboration. But the idea of a world that had already achieved such a balance was both inspiring and humbling. "I've spent my whole life trying to help Earth," he said quietly, "but sometimes it feels like no matter what we do, we're always facing new challenges. Maybe we're not as united as you are." Vila turned to him, her violet eyes filled with understanding. "That's why I brought you here, Ethan. You have something that can help us, something that we've never truly understood. Humanity has the potential for greatness, but sometimes it takes an outside perspective to see what is possible." Ethan felt a surge of hope as Vila spoke. Perhaps this journey, this strange partnership between humans and Zephyrians, was the key to unlocking that potential. Perhaps together, they could help not only humanity but also the entire galaxy. The ship continued its journey through the stars, the vastness of space stretching out before them. As the days passed, Ethan and Vila spent more time talking about their worlds, their hopes, and their dreams for the future. Despite the many differences between them, they began to form a bond, a connection that transcended species. Ethan found himself drawn to Vila's vision, to her belief that humanity could be more than it was, that they could reach beyond the limitations of their world and achieve greatness. On the sixth day of their journey, the ship entered Zephiria's star system. Ethan stared out the window, his breath catching in his throat. Before him was a planet unlike anything he had ever seen, a world of shimmering blue and green, with vast oceans, towering mountains, and sprawling cities. The planet's surface seemed to glow with life, a testament to the harmony between nature and technology. "We're almost there," Vila said, her voice tinged with excitement. "This is Zephyria." Ethan's heart raced as the ship descended toward the planet's surface. He had seen many images of distant worlds, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of Zephyria. It was beautiful in a way that words couldn't describe, peaceful, vibrant, and full of promise. As they landed on the surface, the ship touched down softly, and Vila turned to Ethan. "Welcome to Zephyria," she said, her eyes filled with pride. "This is just the beginning." Ethan stepped out of the ship, his feet touching the alien soil for the first time. He looked around, taking in the breathtaking landscape. The air was fresh, and the sky above him was a deep shade of blue with two suns shining brightly. The cities in the distance were elegant and futuristic, their architecture sleek and graceful. But as he looked around, Ethan couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder. He had stepped onto a world that was both alien and familiar, a world where anything seemed possible. Vila walked beside him, her presence reassuring. "There is much to see and learn here, Ethan," she said softly. "And I believe that together we can help both our worlds reach new heights." Ethan looked at her, a new sense of determination in his eyes. He had come here to explore the unknown, to learn from the Zephyrians, and to help his own people. But now, standing on the surface of this incredible world, he realized that this journey was about more than just discovery. It was about building a future, one that was shaped by cooperation, understanding, and the shared dream of a better tomorrow. And with that, he knew that his journey had only just begun. Ethan stood in awe as he gazed across Zephyria's capital city, his eyes tracing the lines of gleaming structures and vast fields that stretched out in every direction. It was nothing like Earth. The buildings were tall and sleek, but they blended perfectly with the natural landscape, their glass and metal surfaces reflecting the light from Zephyria's twin suns. The air was crisp, fresh, and unlike anything he had ever breathed on Earth. It felt pure, almost as though the planet itself was alive, thriving with energy. He had only been on Zephyria for a few days, but the changes in his perspective had already been profound. The Zephyrians had taken him to some of their most advanced cities, showing him how their technology had allowed them to live in harmony with nature. Their transportation systems were silent, their energy sources clean and virtually limitless. The level of innovation on Zephyria was unlike anything humanity had ever achieved. But it wasn't just their technology that fascinated him, it was their way of life. The Zephyrians didn't seem to struggle with the problems that humans faced: hunger, inequality, environmental destruction. Here, everything seemed to work together, as if they had achieved a balance that Earth could only dream of. But as much as Ethan admired Zephyria, he still couldn't help but feel a pang of homesickness. The streets of the capital were full of people, Zephyrians of all kinds, but despite their advanced technology and peaceful society, there was an emptiness to it all. They had solved so many problems, but Ethan wondered if something had been lost in the process. There were no signs of the struggles he had seen on Earth, the messy, chaotic beauty of human life. The mistakes, the growth, the fight for a better future. It was all so perfect here. Vila, who had been showing him around, noticed the distant look in his eyes. She paused beside him and followed his gaze, a small smile playing on her lips. "You're thinking about Earth, aren't you?" she asked gently. Ethan turned to her, his brow furrowed in thought. "I guess so," he admitted. "It's hard not to. I mean, look at this place. It's incredible. You've built something amazing here, but I wonder, is it really perfect? Are you all truly happy?" Vila raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by his question. "We're not perfect," she said slowly. "No one is, but we've learned to live without the fear of survival. On Earth, everything seems to revolve around survival, competing for resources, struggling to keep up with technology, fighting to stay ahead of one another. We've transcended that. Here, we focus on knowledge, collaboration, and growth. Our society is based on cooperation, not competition." Ethan nodded, still trying to digest what she was saying. "But that doesn't sound like the full story. It can't be that simple. Even on Earth, we know the importance of collaboration, but it doesn't always work that way. People still fight, still compete. They don't always put the common good first." "I understand that," Vila said. "But that's why I brought you here, Ethan, to show you that it's possible, that humanity has the potential to rise above those struggles. You may not see it now, but I believe that you can help lead humanity to something better. Just as we learned from our mistakes, Earth can, too." Ethan absorbed her words in silence. He didn't doubt that Vila believed what she was saying. And part of him agreed with her. He had always believed that humanity could do better. But he wondered if the path to that future was really as simple as she made it sound. After all, change was never easy. It was messy, complicated, and often painful. And while he had seen the beauty of Zephyria, he couldn't ignore the feeling that something fundamental was missing here. The day passed in a blur of meetings, tour, and discussions. The Zephyrians were eager to learn from Ethan, to show him the wonders of their technology and their way of life. They even took him to their central knowledge hub, a vast library that stretched for miles underground, filled with the collective wisdom of their people. The walls were lined with holographic displays, each one containing information about Zephyrian history, science, and philosophy. It was overwhelming, the sheer amount of knowledge available at his fingertips. But despite the awe he felt in these places, something was tugging at Ethan's mind. He had been given so much, seen so much, but it was all starting to feel like a dream. The more he learned, the more he began to question his place in all of this. Could he really contribute to something so grand, so far removed from the messy reality of Earth? As night fell over the city, Vila and Ethan sat together on a balcony overlooking the shimmering lights of the capital. The two suns had dipped below the horizon, and the sky was filled with a soft purple glow. The air was cool, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees below. The sounds of the city were distant, almost like a lullaby. "I know you're thinking about Earth again," Vila said quietly, her voice soft. "But don't let it pull you away from what you can do here. This is a chance to make a difference, Ethan, not just for Zephyria, but for all worlds." Ethan looked at her, her eyes reflecting the soft light of the city. He could see the sincerity in her gaze, the hope that filled her heart. And for the first time since his arrival on Zephyria, he felt a glimmer of hope as well. He wasn't sure what the future held, but he knew that he had to try, for Earth, for Zephyria, and for himself. The next few days were filled with preparations. Ethan was introduced to the Council of Zephyrian Leaders, a group of wise individuals who had guided the planet's growth for centuries. They were a diverse group, each one representing a different aspect of Zephyrian society: science, philosophy, culture, and diplomacy. They listened intently as Ethan explained his work on Earth, his theories about sustainability, environmental change, and human progress. At first, Ethan felt like an outsider. These beings were so far beyond human technology, so advanced in every way, that he wondered if his ideas would even matter to them. But as the discussions continued, he saw something in their faces, a spark of curiosity, a recognition that humanity might have something valuable to offer after all. They didn't see him as a mere human, they saw him as a fellow scientist, a fellow dreamer, someone who shared their vision for a better future. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan's role in Zephyria became clearer. He was no longer just an observer, he was part of something bigger. He began working closely with the Zephyrian scientists, helping them apply their knowledge to the challenges that still existed on their planet. Together, they explored new ways to improve the Zephyrians' understanding of energy, resources, and environmental balance. But even as he worked alongside them, Ethan knew that his ultimate goal was to bring this knowledge back to Earth. He had seen the potential of humanity, but he had also seen its flaws. There was still so much to be done. He knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but he was determined to help humanity rise above its struggles. If the Zephyrians could build a world of peace and cooperation, then perhaps humanity could, too. One evening, as Vila and Ethan walked through the city's grand gardens, Ethan spoke his mind. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," he began, his voice thoughtful. "About how humanity can rise above its flaws, but I wonder if we're ready. I wonder if we're capable of it." Vila smiled, her eyes warm with understanding. "You don't have to have all the answers now. The future is uncertain for everyone. But the important thing is that you're here and you're willing to try. That's what matters most." Ethan stopped walking and looked at her, his expression earnest. "I'm ready to try, but I need to believe that we can do it, that Earth can change." Vila placed a hand on his shoulder, her grip firm and reassuring. "Then I will help you believe. Together, we will make it happen." As they stood there, looking out at the peaceful world around them, Ethan felt a sense of resolve building inside him. He didn't have all the answers, but he was ready to be part of the solution. The road ahead would be difficult, but it was a road worth walking. And no matter where it took him, he knew that this journey was just the beginning.